What are these, Roseanne? What do you call them?
Well, they're called, the Latin name is Mechanopsis, and they're blue Himalayan poppies.
That's definitely a show out there, and it's about the third or fourth show we've seen. Probably a
Yes!
The boat capsized, and I almost died.
My name is Jeremy Norman. I'm the principal owner of Soho Gym. And before that, I started the world-famous Heaven nightclub.
I'm Derek Frost, and professionally I used to be an interior designer.
I met Derek when he was 25 and I was 29, and we've been together ever since. I heard on the radio someone saying that spring travels up through Britain at the pace of a walking man. And I thought that was an intensely romantic notion.
Every summer, Derek and Jeremy charter Killarney, an 80-foot twin-screw diesel motor yacht. Usually, they cruise the Mediterranean. This journey will be different. They'll start at the very tip of England, which is the Scilly Isles, and from there, they'll go up the Bristol Channel to South Wales. And from South Wales, right around the coast of Wales, across the Irish Sea to Northern Ireland. Then, up the coast of Northern Ireland, right to the very top, to Reitlin Island, and then across to the Mull of Kintyre. They'll then proceed up the Inner Hebrides to Ullapool, taking in all the famous islands, and then from Ullapool to the Outer Hebrides, and from there on to St Kilda. Hopefully, if we make it.
So they are very unusual, and you only find these constructions on the northwest of Scotland.
So these are two of the finest examples.
On the mainland, they are the two best.
After visiting the ancient Brochs at Glen Elg, they chatted with a farmer about his flock.
Just a year old, these ones there, and then we could be now meant to shear them to get the wool off them.
Okay.
Later, they drove to Kilt Rock.
This is the chanter that makes all the actual melody.
We rejoined Killarney, anchored in the Kyle of Lochalsh, near the Isle of Skye. It's a grey and overcast morning, but that's not going to prevent Jeremy and Rob from heading out. They set off in the Rib for Malig, which is about 50 kilometres away from where they overnighted. Along the way, they race a guillemot who seems to delight in the competition. He skims across the surface of the water alongside the Rib before dashing off in a display of superior speed and agility. They arrive in Malig. They have arranged to leave the Rib here in safe harbour until they return from St Kilda. Back on Killarney, Dimmy checks the pots to see if their luck with lobsters is holding.
Well, we just got that half an hour ago, and it's full of crabs. There is few snails. None of them are actually edible, but it's just a beautiful sight, full of life. And little crabs, a lot of snails. There's that little eel. The old chops want to chop it off for, use it for bait. But I think I'm gonna let him live. Now, look at him. You tried to pinch me, the little bastard. Hallelujah. If there was more people like me, I say, the diving would have been so much more interesting than it is now.
Killarney slips anchor and heads north towards Loch Torridon. The day is windless and the seas are calm. Killarney cuts effortlessly through the smooth, reflective waters. As they near more open waters, the wind picks up a little, and shimmering in the distance is the Skye Bridge. It's early evening as Killarney approaches the massive span. Roddy Balfour and Rosanna Bulmer have joined Derek and Jeremy for this leg of the journey, and everyone enjoys the spectacular views from the deck.
Well, the Skye Bridge was completed in 1995 after a great deal of controversy, partly because it was going to spoil the little island in the middle there, which you see with a lighthouse and a cottage on it where Gavin Maxwell, the author, lived for a while. There was also a lot of controversy about whether or not it should be a toll bridge, and I believe for the first few years there was quite a substantial toll of £6 or £7 charged on the bridge. And there were huge protests from the locals, and now the bridge is finally toll-free to everyone's delight.
The evening mist clings to the hills, shrouding the peaks as the falling light of evening gives way to sunset and dusk. There is a sense of peace and tranquility, and Killarney barely disturbs the calm water as she glides effortlessly by. They awake to broken cloud, and Derek and Jeremy take a few moments to discuss their plans for a visit to Rosanna's family home further along the coast.
I would like to suggest we fit that in today, so we can leave early-ish tomorrow, so that we can get 2 full days there.
It's about 25 miles, depending on where we're going.
So if we're aiming to spend Saturday out with them, okay, I'm just trying to think about if we actually want to walk their land and know their land, and we're leaving on the Sunday, we're leaving on the 10th early, and we're taking them out on the 9th. I think we probably want to spend time on their land on the 8th or the 9th. Do you see what I mean? We're running out of days. It's 10 o'clock now. Yeah. Leave here, say, at 12:30.
Okay.
And then we'll get there. If we leave at 12:30, we'll get there by
4:30.
About 4-ish, yeah.
Right, so it's not enough time to get into the garden.
No, it isn't. There's no way you can get to the garden today and without being rushed.
That was a big... who was it? Choppy, 10p, my friend.
There's an accident now.
Oh, that's no fucking matter. 10p. They know the rules. Slam jar, door, slam jar. Not a jam, it's a slam jar. Alright? 10p. You see? The crew came up with this idea because of the increasing slam of the doors. And we have these freshmen, those 2 freshmen, who are like, no matter how many times you tell them don't slam the door, they keep on doing it.
You never slam the door down?
I'm the first mate, I'm perfect, alright? And so we came up with this idea, the guests included, they were slamming the doors big time. We came up with this idea, as you can see here, whoever slams the door, if it's a crew, pays 10p. If it's guests, 20p. That's what in our ex-communist world we would like to call fairly distributing the wealth.
With the clouds finally clearing, they sail into Loch Torridon under bright spring sunshine. On Killarney's northward progress, they have frequently encountered schools of small fish rippling the surface of the sea. They suspect they are either herring or mackerel. The shoals can attract predators such as sharks, dolphins, or even whales. Rob also tries his hand, trawling a spinner through the fish, but has no luck either. Herring never take a spinner, so that's probably what these are. Suddenly,
that's definitely a shoal out there, and that's about the third or fourth shoal we've seen. Probably a herring.
Yes!
Yes, so
far. Yeah, that was a whale. I just see a fin come up.
There's definitely a whale feeding on a shoal, what I think is herring. Look, there's weight on that fin. That's pretty no.
The 7 or 8 whales, probably pilot whales, continue to feast on the small fish. Captain Tim slows Killarney so as to allow everyone a better look at the Leviathan creatures. They continue north towards Pooleu and the National Trust for Scotland Property, the garden at Inverview. It lies in a sheltered cove at the head of the loch. Later that afternoon, Derek and Jeremy tour the garden along with Rosanna and Roddy.
They're called Mechanopsis. It's a blue Himalayan poppy. Yeah, they're in there.
So what are these, Rosanna? What do you call them?
Well, they're called, the Latin name is Mechanopsis, and they're blue Himalayan poppies.
Right.
But clearly, if you look behind you, those are different to these. So there obviously must be different genus or different species, but they are native very much of the Himalayas.
Really?
I can't grow them. I've tried amazingly hard. I've been given them. They love totally this sort of situation, woodland, shelter.
Even at home you can't?
No, I've tried. But also there must be variation, because if you look at the ones behind you, they're a smaller flower and they're a different colour.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic.
And a sort of more serrated leaf down
Was it quite rare to see them, you think?
No, you can grow them, but you don't see them that often in England. People can grow them. My neighbours can grow them, infuriatingly. I don't seem to be able to, but they're not.
No, that's very upsetting.
Yeah.
They never came up. I think they need ericaceous.
This is an echium, and it's echoes of Tresco, what we saw at Tresco, where we saw the giant echium. This is the ordinary standard version. Ordinary, but it's actually quite extraordinary to find it so far north, thriving in this garden. And next to it is the cistus, another Mediterranean plant that you'd never expect to see here. And it's a tribute to the amazing mild conditions that this garden...
Why do you say you couldn't grow it up? So you couldn't grow it in Herefordshire, or you couldn't grow it here?
I certainly couldn't grow it in Herefordshire. I don't even think, I probably couldn't even grow it here either, because we're just not quite sheltered enough.
I'm surprised to see them because normally they are complete chalk lovers, echiums. But whenever I've seen them on chalk, anyway.
And also then the late spring flowers, like all the cistruses are coming out, which is incredible. It's very old. It is.
And this is a turkey oak.
It's a variegated turkey.
A variegated turkey oak.
But also what I love about it is because we are here and because there is no pollution, you have this unbelievable, lichen as well growing in. Look at all the branches.
Does like unharmed.
It's the oldest turkey oak I've ever seen. To me, the beauty of it is it spreads out and you can sort of climb underneath it, which is much more like a beech tree or something, whereas oak tree normally tends to grow more upright.
Yeah, it's not because it's been pruned that way. It's just
I
what
think
it
it's
does.
just happened.
And that's the star of the garden.
Well, it's my
Your
style. I
star.
don't know.
It's a magnificent, magnificent thing. I mean, I didn't know it was so. I mean, I've never heard of it.
Some parts of the garden are so sheltered the plants are semi-tropical.
But look at all the potatoes being grown and all the proper veggies.
I love it.
What have they got in there? Melons. Little mini greenhouses with melons in them. Sweet peas and rhubarb. It's an ornamental grass, which Jamie will never let me grow. I just think this is the most amazing garden.
I do say neat, that's what's so amazing about it. So incredibly well looked after. I've never seen a garden. It's immaculate. And it's so healthy. Almost suspiciously healthy. There's hardly a sign of any leaf being eaten by an insect, which I think in all my garden, I don't know about yours, certainly not the case.
The garden was started in 1862 by Osgood Mackenzie, son of Francis Mackenzie, Laird of Gairloch. It was passed down to his daughter Mary on his death in 1922 and gifted by her to the National Trust for Scotland in 1953. The gardens cover the 2,100-acre estate surrounding Inverview House and contain over 2,500 exotic plants. Mackenzie reputedly had the fertile soil for the gardens shipped over from Ireland.
I just find it such a wonderful setting. You know, when you come in, you just see the awful old barracky thing of the pub, and then here this is.
Amazing. I think they're the best gardens I've ever seen anywhere.
And then all this sort of weeds, like valerian, etc., in it, gives it a lovely softness, doesn't it?
And then all the self-seeding aquilegias everywhere, and I just love the way they've let that go, and then you've got the contrast of the amazing veg.
present house was built by Mary's husband in 1935 after the original was destroyed by fire.
Those are like New Zealand ferns.
Yeah.
Because that is like a tongue. Quite extraordinary.
So I'm saying it's like something that whips out, covered sticky, and they...
Very exotic.
You look like Indiana Jones.
Yes, exactly. Darling. Hold on.
I know, I don't want all these lenses pointing at
Oh, come on, Roddy.
Little one for me.
Back at Killarney, with Rib Captain Rob Common's departure only days away, he sits with Captain Tim, and over a beer, they swap stories of their lives at sea.
My first boating experience was fairly horrific. My father bought a 21-foot Sea Voyage out in Norway, and we paddled out midwinter, cracked our way through the fjord and the ice, and we got on board. It was the first time my dad had ever been on a sailing boat as well.
Didn't the initial ice thing deter you?
Didn't really distress him as much as perhaps it should have, because when we
have a beer.
Oh, thank you very much. When we decided to leave the boat, we got into the tender, the little paddling boat that goes to the yacht. Started paddling away, and the boat capsized.
Must have been rather chilly.
It was quite chilly. I think the sea temperature was about 0 or -1, because obviously salt water doesn't freeze particularly, especially when it's moving. And I became paralysed by the cold, and my father then had to swim 25, 30 metres.
That's a hell of an experience.
And I almost died, as did he, with my mother standing on the beach about 500 metres away, unable to do anything at all.
Absolutely helpless.
Totally helpless. And it was love from there on in, really.
Yeah, we love the ones we hate.
Yeah, exactly.
Next time, Derek and Jeremy visit Roseanne's family home.
So what's that? What's that, Marcus, down there?
They tour the estate with head stalker Marcus Munro.
That's the first run of salmon this year. We've seen them out in the sea there boiling, but they must be tasting the rain.
Fantastic. Tasting the rain.
Tasting the rain.
That's a great expression.
Then, after hiking the moors, they visit the artist James Hawkins.
Big question, it's just natural phenomena, things change.
I would say about 15 years ago we stopped getting the regular winters. The prediction for here is that everything will get more extreme. It will get hotter, it'll get windier, it'll get wetter, it'll get colder. And that seems to be what's happening.
This is a wonderful transition.
It's not actually a brush. Well, this is for...
Who shares some tips on painting techniques with Derek.